Hi, welcome to Every Nation Campus Ghent. I'm Natanya. I will be your host for the evening. I'm the campus minister here, and I'm so glad you're able to join us today. We're here at our student midweek service, which we are having every Thursday. Normally, we would have our student midweek service live in the basement, but due to Corona, we haven't been able to do so for a few months, and I'm missing you all very, very dearly. Now, before we jump into tonight, I quickly want to give you an update on a few decisions that our team had to make this week around when our services are going to be starting live again. And I'm sorry to say that we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, because even though I know and we fully realize as a team that the government is allowing 100 people in the building at the moment, right now for us that's under heavy restrictions, and we are not able to as a team fully comply with those. So we have chosen and decided as a team to do the service a little bit longer live and to start working more and more through our small groups. So if you're not in a small group, this is your chance to sign up on one. Go jump on our website, go jump on Church Suite, get connected with us. We would love for you to have join a small group. So what are the restrictions the government is placing on us? Well, basically, the government is asking that only one person per 10 square meters enters the building. Now, in our building with our capacity, that is about 20 people downstairs, 15 people upstairs. So we don't have that big a capacity. Next to that, we are also not allowed to worship. We're not allowed to actually pray for each other. We are only allowed to come into the building, listen to the sermon, go out again. We're not allowed to mingle, we're not allowed to offer drinks or refreshments, and we cannot open up the toilets to the public either. So with all those heavy restrictions, and there are a lot more than these that I just summed up, we decided as a team that we cannot comply with those at the moment. And as a team, as a campus ministry and as a church, we really want to just be faithful and respect what the government has decreed and decided. So for the next few weeks, we will still be doing this live up until the next decision from the government. And I will keep you posted myself on what's going to happen with that in the future. I'll be sending more videos out on that later on tomorrow or this weekend. Now, today I want to look with you guys to the sermon series that we started last week. And we started a sermon series on perseverance, and we talked about what when studying actually seems eternal, because we've been home for so long. You guys have been studying pretty hard, and it does seem like there is not coming an end to it at one point, and I've heard it from multiple students. So we looked into that last week. This week we are looking into the pressure to perform. Now we're going to be talking about how people are putting pressure on us to perform, and in our current society that's actually getting worse and increasing big time. How do we deal with that, and how do we make sure it's not going to paralyze us, and does the Bible have anything to say about that? Next week, we'll be talking about lifting the lid. Yes, there is a lid in anxiety and depression and the stress that can come on you, and that puts a lid on you. But there's also a healthy part to it that can actually propel you forward, and we want to lift that lid with you. And then the last week, the fourth week, we'll be talking about rest to work, or, well, sleep inside. So we don't work to rest and then to have a holiday, be sick because we've worked too hard, but we actually rest in order to work and to have the energy again. But today, the pressure to perform. If you're curious about the next one, stay tuned on this YouTube channel or on our Facebook Lives. And if you haven't seen the last one from last week, it's already on our YouTube playlist, so go and check it out. Alright, so I want to start with a story on, as you can see it, High School Musical. Now, I myself am a big fan of High School Musical. I loved to watch it when I was in high school, and I just love the music, and, well, basically I'm also a huge Disney fan, so I mean, that's me. But I want to start with an example of how I felt the pressure to perform in high school big time. Now, as you might know, I've already picked it up. I have a very heavy medical background and a lot of traumas in my childhood, and a lot of surgeries, a lot of physical things that I had to work through, and therapy that I actually needed for that. And because of that, I always kind of was slower in my schoolwork. I had concentration difficulties, motoric difficulties, and there was just a lot of therapy that went involved in getting me up to speed with my schoolmates, with my classmates. Now, okay, what you might ask, what does that have to do with anything? Well, um, basically, I've always thought of and put a lot of pressure on myself, but also the outside world, as in that I could do anything what someone without the heavy medical background could do. Now, in high school, I worked very, very long and hard. I wanted to excel in everything I did. I wanted to do it well. But there was also an expectation from my side that I really, even though I had a difficult past and a very heavy medical background, that I was going to succeed anyway. And I felt that pressure both from teachers, but also just from lifting up to my friends, and from being constantly told that I'm the slow one, that I'm not smart enough, that I can't do this. And then basically I felt a pressure by comparing to others to actually constantly lift up and do what they did as well, both in sports, as in my education, in the grades that I had, but also in the hobbies that I did. And it was very important for me to just be normal and be like someone else, you know. And I remember when I was in the fourth grade of high school, so I was about 15, 16 years old, I was already working until 3 or 4 in the night and on a very regular basis. So a normal weekday was for me at least midnight, sometimes longer, depending on which tests I had. And then in the fourth grade, I actually failed for math for the first time. And it's the only time as well. And then they advised me from school. I was in ASO back then, and like the almost the highest level of like education in high school here in Belgium. And they advised me, the teachers, then even though all my grades were good except the one for math, that I was actually gonna go to a more technical direction, which would make it easier for me and give me a lot more breathing room. Now, I wasn't happy with that at all. I mean, my friends were, like the few friends that I had were in the school that I was in. I didn't want to change. I felt like a failure. And I felt the teacher saying to me, you can't do this. You don't have enough capacity or leeway to actually do this. You're not like anybody else. And for me, that was a confirmation of who I thought I was at that point. So the moment I made the transfer, and with a lot of pressure from my parents, from my family, from those teachers, I actually made the transfer. And I mean, I ended up loving it, but I still felt that pressure to perform. And I basically made the decision for myself, if they think I can't do ASO Moderne like I want to do, then I'll show them that I'm gonna kick their ass and these grades, and I'm gonna ace them. And for 2 years, I worked even harder than before. And there were a few courses that I loved. There were others where I had a little bit more breathing space, but I worked actually harder than before. And I aced everything. I was the first student to graduate from both 5th year, 6th year, and the 7th year with the highest grades in that school, those 2 years that I was there. And I'm still very happy that I actually went to that school, because it showed me my love for anatomy and anything that has to do with the human body, and especially with the brain and the nervous system. But so it opened up a world for me, but it added an extra pressure to perform, because now I didn't only just want it to be normal, I already felt like a failure. So now I actually wanted to be the best. And when I succeeded and when I had good grades, that gave me a sense of identity and purpose at that point, and it kept me from feeling lost. So how did I come out of that? Because obviously when you take that into college with you, I mean, you can't do that all the time, because you're not going to succeed anyway if you do that. So there is more to the story, but let's talk about that later in a bit. I want to talk to you about how our society, and especially when you're a young person, when you're still studying or just graduated, is actually adding a lot of pressure to perform, to young people, and we don't even know that's there. And with all the generations that have passed, we've added more and more pressure to perform on our youth, up until the point where now we see actually teenagers with mental health problems and students with mental health problems like we've never seen before in the past. And partially that has to do with that. Now, I know it's exam time, so I know this is a very relevant topic in the sense that right now the pressure is real, the pressure is on. You have to perform right now, not today, not tomorrow, not yesterday. You have to do it right now. You have to study, make sure that you're on track, that you studied everything, and that you succeed. Now, pressure to perform is actually pressure and an expectation from the outside that's put on you. So it's an expectation that other people are having from you. It's not even a pressure that you are necessarily putting on yourself. It's literally coming from expectations that others are having. Now, we can see it and recognize it by you having the need to overcompensate, for example. If you're not good in one thing, you're going to overcompensate in something else. For example, I might not be good in doing a lot of finances and admin, but I can overcompensate in serving. I used to do it all the time. I might not be good in sports and only got 5s for that, which I did, but I overcompensated that in the way I studied because I could study and I love to study. The need to compare is another measure of seeing how the pressure of performance to perform actually plays out in our life. And for example, the need to compare that you have and how much you compare yourself to other people shows yourself the pressure that you feel to perform. Other people are doing that, I should also do that. If she can do that, I am also be able to do that. If she can graduate in 3 years, I should be able to graduate in 3 years. So you're constantly making that comparison with, okay, where is she at? Now I need to go there. Where is she at? Now I need to go there. So that's basically what the pressure to perform means. It's an expectation that others are putting on you, and you're trying to live up to that expectation. Now, those expectations can both come from your family, from social media that you've been watching, and a standard that is being set on social media. For example, skinny girls that work out on Instagram. I have a few of those people that I follow because I'm currently busy with trying to be physically more healthy. But on the other hand, it's putting a pressure on you because I need to look that way if I want to be normal. Oh, she's always joyful. She's always laughing and having fun. There's something wrong in my life because I'm not. Or your family. For example, the moment I decided to not work as an occupational therapist anymore, but to actually go into full-time ministry and go work for a church, go work with students like I'm doing right now, my parents expected me to work as an occupational therapist and to become successful in that and to make a difference in that. And I chose a different path, and up until this day, they still have the expectation for me to work as an occupational therapist. They also have the expectation from me and putting a lot of pressure on me, not just to actually go back as an OT, but also, for example, to join the family company sometimes. And well, even though those things, I mean, I can handle that because I've learned to handle that emotionally and be mature about it, there is still a certain pressure that is being put on me at certain points. Now, you might be experiencing pressure from your family being put on you just the same, but also from your friends. Peer pressure, it's called. So your friends, oh, I'm doing this weekend. What are you doing? I've already done this and this and this in this chapters. Where are you at? Oh crap, I'm not going that fast. Like, what did you do differently? I'm doing something wrong. Anyone recognize that? Both in group works and in studying, and even at your job. If you have a job, these are the kind of pressures that we see. And then we are not even speaking about the pressure that university, that schools systems, that professors, or that even the government is putting on us today. We are experiencing in this generation increasing levels of pressure to perform on every level of life. We're talking about sports. You need to be sporty, healthy, look a certain way. You need to perform, you need to have a degree, you need to be accomplished by the age of 30, you need to have a house, a family, preferably married or living together by the age of 35 and then having one kid. And we have these standards that people are trying to lifting up to, expectations from other people that, well, might or might not be realistic and might not even fit your design. So how does that involve us? Well, basically, we also have something called the imposter syndrome. And I don't know if you are going to recognize this, but imposter syndrome basically means that you're trying to be someone else and you're acting a certain way to perform and to lift up to a certain expectation. But you might be just feeling on the inside like a fraud. Like, what am I actually doing? What are people going to think when they see that I'm actually just a big failure? That I can't do that I'm not quick enough, I'm not making my deadline. How are they going to react when they see that of me? And because we think a certain way, we try to keep our image up, but on the inside, we often can feel like a fraud, like I'm just trying to fake it till I make it, but it's not actually really working. I have a message for you today. The pressure to perform physically impacts and changes your brain. Yes, you heard me correctly. It physically impacts and changes your brain. And I want to talk to you about how it does that. For example, the pressure diminishes your ability to think clearly, to use wisdom to make grounded and good decisions, to have creativity, to be able to work in a team, and it decreases your productivity, effectiveness, and efficiency. So pressure to perform actually has literal negative influences on your productivity. The pressure comes from, for example, I need to be better than I've been before. You've done that over there. Now you have to keep up your work and get your game together and get your stuff together so you can actually be better and be more accomplished, because you need to improve, you need to keep it up. But it sabotages our best performance. It takes away actually our ability, our mental and physical ability to perform. And that pressure can actually have the opposite effect and paralyze us instead of actually us moving us forward. Now, the stress with that to maintain what you already have achieved, because if you're feeling that pressure and you're feeling like, I'm getting stuck, I'm getting paralyzed here, but yet you have to maintain what you have already achieved, it only adds extra pressure. It's the same with studying, it's the same in every area of life. Now, in our society, we connect identity and performance and achievements with each other big time. If I say I'm an occupational therapist, or I'm a successful, prosperous campus minister, I'm a writer, and I've written this and this and this many books, for example, I connect my performance, my achievements with who I am. It becomes part of my identity. And that's one of the things where we go wrong, because it's not. It's what we do, but we are not what we do. We are so much more than that. Where we also see, and especially, for example, with studying, but also working in the corporate world, we often set goals. But the moment we don't reach them, for example, we're not on time, or we're not able to finish them like we had set the goal to finish them, and like give the same meaning to them, then we actually see that we completely miss out on the process of getting to that goal and actually getting to our final product, but that we are so involved with, we need to get the goal done on time, that we just lose track of everything. It puts pressure on us, and we still fail and see ourselves as a failure afterwards. We base our identity on extrinsic values instead of intrinsic values. We base our identity on the things we do, the things that happen around us, what other people say around us, instead of what's actually on the inside of us. And that results in not being able to actually see things in the right perspective. Now, I want to ask you today, are you performing your life for others? Because especially with social media, even more so, performing for others has become a daily thing for a lot of us, and a lot of us are not even aware that we're doing it, me included. Are you performing your life for others? Do you care what others think about you? Are you doing things because you think other people expect that from you? And what are you gonna do about it? How many times during the day are you comparing yourself to someone else? Even while you're studying, are you comparing yourself to how far they already are, or which chapters they have already done, what their answer on the exams were? Are you performing your life for others? Now, I want to tell you today, if you're performing your life for others, I can tell you right now that is going to kill you on the inside. The crowd will kill you. Now, where do I get that? I get this from John 7, verse 1 till 13, and I want to read this together with you. Now, it says here, after this, Jesus went around in Galilee. He did not want to go about in Judea because the Jewish leaders there were looking for a way to kill him. But when the Jewish festival of Tabernacles was near, Jesus' brothers said to him, "Leave Galilee and go to Judea, so that your disciples there may see the works you do. No one who wants to become a public figure acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the world." For even his own brothers did not believe him. Therefore Jesus told them, "My time is not yet here. For you any time will do. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify that its works are evil. You go to the festival. I am not going up to this festival, because my time has not yet fully come." And he had said this, he stayed in Galilee. However, after his brothers had left for the festival, he went also, not publicly, but in secret. Now at the festival, the Jewish leaders were watching for Jesus and asking, "Where is he?" Among the crowds, there was widespread whispering about him. And some said, "He is a good man." But others replied, "No, he deceives the people." But no one would say anything publicly about him for fear of the leaders. Now, what is this all about? Well, I'll paint a little picture of context for you guys. In John 6, it actually talks about, or we see in John 6, and John is written by the Apostle John around 95 AD. And basically, he writes there an account of Jesus multiplying the food. So Jesus was teaching to the crowds. He was talking to them like I'm talking to you right now on a mountain, and there wasn't any food for them. And there were about 5,000 people there. And well, that's only the men counted, not the children and the women. So they didn't have any food. So Jesus asked, "Who has any food?" They had 5 loaves and 2 fishes, or it was the other way around, 5 fishes and 2 loaves of bread. And Jesus multiplies that, and they are able to feed every single one until they're filled and full, and they still had a lot of leftovers. Now, shortly after that, we see that at the end of the day, Jesus withdraws himself to have some time for himself and have some solitude, because I mean, a whole day with a group of 5,000 people is a lot of work, takes a lot of energy. And in the morning, the crowd that was with Jesus goes and searches for him. And they want to hear him speak. They want to hear him teach. And Jesus starts teaching. And he basically, after feeding them physically, now starts feeding them spiritually. So he is starting to talk about who Jesus is, about who he is, and what he came to do. He has fed them bread. And now he's actually giving them spiritual bread. And he's saying, I am the bread that is going to give life. Now my body is going to be broken for you on the cross. So he's already talking about what he is coming to do here, which is set people free, give them eternal life, forgiveness of sins, and all of that. Now, Jesus does that. And the crowds are actually, "But we want to see you do the same thing as you did yesterday. We want to see you multiply bread and fish, and because we're hungry, we want to see you do that miracle, not have you talk about spiritual things that we don't understand, like And they actually took offense. So they started being grumpy, they started arguing, and then they deserted Jesus, or a lot of them deserted Jesus, not all of them. So Jesus' 12 apostles, his disciples, stayed with him. But a lot of the other disciples, or a lot of the people, the 5,000 people that gathered, went away, grumpy and arguing and being critical of all the things Jesus now said. So they deserted him, the Bible says. Now, if we look into the rest of Jesus' life, we see that Jesus actually has a lot of pressure throughout his entire life to perform. He has pressure from religious leaders because they expect him, and every Jew expects him, to overthrow the Romans at that time and to be a very skilled, what's it called? A warrior, like an army leader, like a warrior. So they expect him to be like a physical liberator and liberate them from Rome. Now, Rome expects him to be some kind of weirdo who does that and is that military leader, but no one expects him to be a woodworker from Nazareth, which is like a town they were all like, nothing good is gonna ever come from that. But then you also see that in this example, it's his brothers actually talking to Jesus and saying to him that he needs to come to Judea with them, celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles, because, well, he has been doing miracles yesterday. He needs to make it public and he needs to attract the crowds back to them, because, I mean, they deserted all of him. Like, nah, attract them back to you. So they had like a strategy that they thought was going to work. But so his family, his own siblings, have put pressure on him to perform miracles. Multiply bread, turn water into wine, walk on water, all of those things. Now, we then also see that the crowds had pressured the disciples that were with him yesterday, on that 5,000 people. They also put pressure on him. So Jesus experienced a lot of pressure to perform from different people. Now, what we also see here is that Jesus actually didn't submit to that pressure. He wasn't afraid to disappoint people or to not meet their expectations. He wasn't a people pleaser. No, Jesus perfectly well knew who he was, what his identity was, and what he came here to do. Jesus knew, I am the Son of God. I came to this earth because I need to reconcile the people back to my Father God in heaven, so they can have eternal life, and so they can have forgiveness of sins, and so they can have a relationship with God the Father. And I need to do that by dying on the cross and then raising up again after 3 days, proving that I'm the Son of God. Jesus perfectly knew what he came here to do. He says here in John, that in John 5 or 6, my time is not yet here. For you, any time will do. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify that its works are evil. So you see here, Jesus knows what he comes to do. But you also see that Jesus knows the time. Jesus is on kingdom timing. Jesus is on God's timing. Jesus is not on people's timing. Big difference. He is on the timing that God has for him. Jesus knows that he is called by God to fulfill a bigger purpose, and he knows that and he walks in that. And so Jesus is not afraid to say no to people that expect different things from him, because his calling, his purpose, his identity, and his Father in heaven is of greater importance to him. And Jesus is not afraid to, at that point, not say, I'm going to take this thing publicly because I can do miracles. No, he says, I'll stay in Galilee where no one knows what I did, and where it stays small and hidden in secret. And he's basically working under, there's a time and a place for everything. And Jesus is like, I am not afraid to stay where I am, even though other people say that I have to move to Judea. I know what my Father called me to do, and I know his timing in that as well. So what does that has to do with us? Well, firstly, I want to ask you, who are you living your life for? I asked in the beginning, are you living your life to perform for others? I want to tell you today that I'm hoping that after tonight, you will know that God is your audience. Not in the sense like, ooh, God is watching you. No. Live your purpose and your calling for God. God is your audience. Live to please God, not men. And show up for Him, not for people. Because if you do that, I can promise you right now, it's actually liberating. Because you do not have to try to please people. You only have to try to please one, and that person actually made you. He is God. He designed you. He knows your calling. He knows your identity. He knows how you work, and He doesn't change His mind. And He wants to empower you and help you to actually live out all those things. So I want to encourage you today, make God your audience. Start living for God. Start studying for God. Don't study for good grades and hopefully you'll pass that exam. Study because you know that God is going to use it for your purpose in your life, for your calling, and that you can study for Him. That He sees what you do, the effort that you put in, and well, that's the most important thing, that you please Him even while you're studying for the exams. God is your audience. God is my audience. And I am showing up for God. I am saying every single day, God, even when I'm not doing well, I'm saying, God, I am showing up. I'm here today. I'm showing up for you. Today is one for you. God does not drive. The government, your professors, your family, they might push you and drive you. Our culture pushes us to perform. People can push you to perform. But God does not drive you. He is not a guard dog that is chasing you like sheep or cattle to move ahead and to go into the field or the meadow or in the stable that you need to be in. No, He leads you. God is someone who is going first, and He is inviting you to join and to join His space, and He will keep up with you as well. He is leading you. He's not chasing you. He's not driving you. He's not pushing you. He is leading you. He will show you, this is how I've made you. This is your calling. This is your purpose. Stuff like that. I want to invite you today to start living, acting, and studying out of purpose and calling. Know that God has specifically designed you. You're unique. There is no one like you. But there's also this one specific thing in the world, it's like a hole in the world, that only you can fill. Only you can fill that. And that is your purpose and your calling. It's the reason why God made you. It's what He had in mind when He made you. And that's what we mean when we're talking about intrinsic values, because that's value that God placed inside of you. It's your God-given identity and calling. And it's something that no one can steal. But it lifts you from the pressure of the expectations from the world around you. So I want to encourage you today. The moment you feel the pressure to perform, I have a few practical tips. First of all, learn to see your identity based on your godly given values and identity. Go search for that. Why are you studying what you're studying? How does that connect with God's calling for your life, with who God made you to be? And start from there. It's about you, not about you and someone else, not about you and your neighbor, not about you and your mom. It's about you. Then, reconceptualize your failures. Failures are not failures. Failures have 3 ways to go. We often see it as you win or you lose. You either pass or you fail on an exam. But you can also see it as either I win, I lose, or I grow. Attempts are only failed attempts the moment you view them as such. But you need to change your perspective into no, they're actually results and knowledge that I've gained from this. And I need to start looking at what I've gained and seeing or asking myself, how can I turn this performance into a growth opportunity? So I want to encourage you today, even if you feel like you failed, What is the opportunity? What is the experience that you can grow and learn from? You either win, you lose, or you grow. I'm encouraging you today to choose for the I grow. Then look at the bigger picture. Don't forget how your studies, your current circumstances fit in the bigger picture for your life that God has. Put it in perspective. Know that making mistakes are okay. You are allowed to fail. You're allowed to fail. As long as you get up again. Plan in moments where you can unwind and de-stress and switch off. Even tonight, even today, you might even need to do that for like 2 minutes during your studies. Go sit on the toilet, close your eyes, and just be like, oh. De-stress, unwind, switch off. But do it regularly, because your brain is not made to constantly go over information, new stimuli, swipe very, very quickly. Your brain is not made for that. But your brain is made for infinite learning. And the learning also needs to allow your brain to actually process that, to unwind and de-stress, so they can actually process it. And then I want to encourage you to get rid of other people's expectations. But only ask yourself, what is God expecting from me, and what I'm expecting from me? And do that in the picture of your identity, your God-given calling and design, and your purpose. And the last tip I want to give you is, in a moment of anxiety, I want to encourage you, stop, like put the pause button on, breathe, go like, okay, 4 deep breaths in, hold it for 8 seconds, like count to 8, and then 4 breaths out through your nose. Okay, then you're gonna start asking yourself, why am I anxious right now? Why am I stressed right now? And start analyzing that. Then I want you to have a thinker moment. Start thinking about how you could change that. And I want you to write down after that the reason why you were afraid, what you analyzed, and how you're going to change that. And then I want to encourage you to put that into action. For example, that might be a verse, that might be something you're going to motivate yourself with, but change your thought patterns with that. Now, last but not least, I want to encourage you, I want to close off with this, to keep the why high. Keep the why high. Remember your God-given identity, your purpose, and your calling. Remember why you're doing what you're doing, that bigger picture. And it's going to help you put things in perspective. Now, I want to close off with the pressure to perform. Do you feel it too? I'm hoping after this that you remember that Jesus had a lot of pressure to perform, but he did not succumb to that pressure. He did not go into it, but he instead went with his God-given calling, identity, but also with God's timing for his life. And he was not afraid to say no, and it liberated him from a lot of expectations from other people. So I want to encourage you today that if you are experiencing the pressure to perform, even during the exams, to go over these tips, to go start meditating about what I just said, and start using those very practically in your life. Because I can promise you right now, the moment I stepped into a place where I started living from my calling, and God has called me to ministry, to be an entrepreneur, and to be a writer, and to actually pioneer and to grow in strategic thinking, the moment I started living those things out, that's the moment that I became alive. And that's also the moment where I became motivated and I had expectations from myself, but where it's the moment I stopped living for other people's expectations. And I want to encourage you today, go to God, ask for his timing, ask for his calling and purpose, and let him help you to see that bigger picture, and say yes. God is your audience. I live to please him, because that's what I want to do with my life. Now, I hope this encourages you today, and I hope this is actually practical. If you want more practical tips, we'll be having a Zoom call after this service, and then we can go into that a lot more. Now, before we close off, let me quickly pray for you. Father, I thank you so much for everyone who joined us online. I thank you that you are the God that didn't succumb to pressures, but you were the God that know who he was, what he came here to do, and he just did it. And he did it anyway, despite what people expected from him. But God, you also had a heart for people and you love people even in the midst of all of that. And God, I want to ask you for everyone that feels that pressure to perform right now, that you would give them wisdom and insight on how that fits into the bigger picture, where they are in their lives with you. And God, I pray that you would just guide them along the way. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Have an awesome week. I hope to see you on our Zoom call in a bit. And otherwise, I hope to see you next week. If you are not in a small group yet, what I just spoke about tonight, a small group can help you with a lot. So please get in touch with us or get in touch with me. I would love to help you on this journey and to help you see God's calling and purpose for your life, and to help you deal with the pressure to perform, but to go at God's pace. And I can promise you right now, there is grace for you that's gonna help you and empower you to walk in a season where you're at. Have an awesome week. Enjoy the sunshine. Good luck with your exams and with studying, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.